You save a little. You skip the thing. You move money to savings on payday and feel almost proud of it. Then you check the balance a month later, and it looks like nothing happened. So you do it again. And again. And the number barely moves, and a quiet voice says, "What is even the point?" That feeling, the saving is real but the progress is invisible, has a shape. And almost everybody quits inside it. Here is the part nobody tells you. The hardest money you will ever build is not the first 100,000, it is the first 8,000. Not 10,000, 8. An odd number on purpose, and by the end you will know exactly why it is 8 and not a rounder, prettier figure. And to be clear right now, that 8,000 is an illustration I am using to show you how the math feels. It is not a magic number and not a target I am setting for you. The reason the start feels like nothing is happening is not that you are bad at this. It is the shape of the curve itself. Money growth is a curve that bends upward over time. But the beginning of that curve is long and nearly flat. I call it the flat stretch. The flat stretch is the boring early part, the long walk before the line visibly bends. It feels flat because, at the start, it basically is. And the whole trap is simple. The flat stretch is where the reward is smallest and the urge to quit is largest. So most people quit on the flat part, right before it would have started to bend. Let me show you with two people. Meet Marcus and Jay. They are made up. I am using them to show you how the math works, not to tell you who to be. Marcus, the one in the teal shirt, keeps walking the flat stretch even when it feels pointless. Jay, in the terracotta shirt, does the most normal thing in the world. Jay starts strong, the balance crawls, the flat stretch wears him down, so he quits and spends it back to zero. Then he starts over. He does this 3 separate times. And I want to say it plainly. Jay is not the fool here. Quitting the flat stretch is the default. It is what the whole curve is shaped to make you do. Watch the first stretch up close. Say Marcus sets aside an illustrative $250 a month. That $250 is just a number I picked to show the math, not a target for you. Month 1, his balance is $250. Month 2, about $500. The line goes up, but it goes up like a ramp, not a rocket. Nothing dramatic happens. And here is the thing that makes it feel flat, with the numbers on screen. At the start, almost every single dollar of progress is money he put in himself. Almost none of it is growth. Growth is when your money earns money on its own. On the flat stretch, there is barely enough money yet for growth to do anything you can see. So it looks like all grind and no payoff, because mostly, it is. Let me make that visible, with every assumption on the screen, nothing hidden. Say Marcus's $250 a month grows at a hypothetical 4% a year. That 4% is just an assumption to make the math show up. It is not a prediction and not a promise, and the $250 is an illustration, not a target. After about 2.5 years, he has put in roughly $8,000 of his own money. The growth on top of it, after all that time, is only a few $100s. Read that again. After years of grind, the growth is still tiny next to what you put in. The line is almost entirely you. That is not a flaw in your saving. That is just the flat stretch. So when you save for months and feel like nothing is happening, you are reading the curve correctly. At the start, almost nothing is happening except you, showing up. The growth, the part that does the heavy lifting later, has not woken up yet. It cannot, until there is enough money on the table for it to work with. Which means the flat stretch is not a sign you are failing. It is the toll you pay before the curve will bend for you. Everybody pays it. Most people just quit halfway through. If seeing why the start feels flat already made something click, consider subscribing. I make one of these a week. Calm, fully sourced, no hype. Because the next part is the one almost everyone gets wrong. And it is the real reason the flat stretch resets Jay to zero again and again. Back to the road. Here is what actually happens to Jay on the flat stretch. He saves a little, the number barely moves, and one day life sends a bill. The car, the tooth, the surprise the month did not plan for. And Jay has a small, slow-moving pile of savings sitting right there. So he does the rational feeling thing. He drains it to cover the bill, or worse, he never built it and puts the bill on a card. Either way, the flat stretch resets to zero. And this is not rare, it is the norm. According to the Federal Reserve's 2025 report, 63% of adults would cover a $400 emergency with cash or its equivalent. Flip that around. Roughly 1 in 3 would have to cover that small, common expense another way, like borrowing or carrying it. The Fed is measuring the method people would use, not whether they can afford it. Now here is why resetting to zero is worse than just slow. When the bill goes on a card instead of a cushion, the flat stretch does not pause. It runs backward. The average credit card APR is around 21.5% on balances charged interest, according to Federal Reserve data from early 2026. APR just means the yearly interest rate on what you owe. Remember how growth was barely awake on the flat stretch, earning tens of dollars? At 21.5% on a carried balance, that exact engine runs in reverse, and it is wide awake. So Jay is not standing still. He is sliding back down the flat stretch while he climbs it. That is the trap. Same effort, and the line keeps resetting under his feet. Marcus is on the same flat stretch, with the same boredom, the same surprise bills. The only difference is what he is building toward. That difference is the whole video. So now I can answer the question I opened with. Why 8,000 and not a rounder number? Roughly, 8,000 is the cushion that absorbs a real emergency instead of turning it into new debt. Tie it to that $400 fragility the Fed measured, plus a few months of a lean essential budget. It is illustrative. Your real number depends on your life, so do not treat 8,000 as a target. The point is the line, not the digits, because something specific happens the moment you cross it, and it is not about the money feeling like a lot. 8,000 is not a lot. It is about what stops happening. The first thing that changes. When the car brakes now, Marcus pays for it from the cushion and keeps walking the flat stretch. The bill does not become a 21.5% balance. That is the going backwards spiral, ended. For the first time, an emergency stops being a reset button. The flat stretch stops sliding out from under him. This is the real reason the first 8,000 is the hardest. Below the line, every bad month can send you to zero. Above it, the same bad month is just a bad month. The second thing that changes is quieter, and it might matter more. By the time Marcus crosses that line, he has set money aside on payday around 30 times in a row. 30 repetitions is not a goal anymore. It is who he is now. Saving stopped being a thing he is trying to do and became a thing he does. Jay never got there, not because he is weaker, but because he quit during the flat stretch every time, before the habit could harden. The grind was real, and the reward had not shown up yet. The personal saving rate in the US has recently sat in low single digits, according to the BEA. So Jay is not the exception, he is the average. The flat stretch beats most people. The third thing that changes is the one you cannot see yet, but it is the whole reason any of this matters. 8,000 is the seed the curve bends from. Growth needs a base to work on. Below the line, there is not enough money for growth to do anything you would notice. Above it, the same percentage finally starts to mean real dollars. The flat stretch never bends because of a clever move. It bends because enough money finally sits on the table for time to go to work. 8,000 is roughly where the table stops being empty, so the first 8,000 is hard because it is almost all you and almost no growth. And it is worth it because it is the exact thing that flips that ratio for the rest of your life. Let me total this honestly, with every assumption stated and on the screen, the way we always do it here, the assumptions. An illustrative $250 a month. A hypothetical 4% annual rate, just to make the growth visible. Standard compound interest, the kind on the SEC's own calculator. To reach an illustrative 8,000 takes Marcus around 32 months of those deposits. Of that 8,000, almost all of it is money he put in. The growth is small, by design, because that is the flat stretch. None of those are predictions. The 250 is an illustration, the 4% is an assumption, the 8,000 is illustrative, and your real numbers will be your own. And I am not going to invent a final dollar figure for Jay, because his number depends on a life I cannot measure. The honest contrast is enough. Marcus stayed on the flat stretch and crossed the line once. Jay walked the same flat stretch 3 times and reset to 0 3 times. Same effort. One of them has a base. The other has a story about almost. So here is what the whole thing keeps proving. The flat stretch is real, it is boring, and it is supposed to feel like nothing is happening. That is not a bug. That is the shape of the start. The first 8,000 is the hardest stretch you will ever walk, because it is the part with the least reward and the most reasons to quit. but it is also the only part that ends the going backwards spiral, hardens the habit into who you are, and plants the seed the curve later bends from. And the quiet good news is this: the flat stretch does not get longer the more you walk it. Every deposit you keep is one you never have to walk again. So before you click away, do one honest thing. Ask yourself where you are on the flat stretch right now. Near the start, somewhere in the boring middle, or have you quit and reset more than once? There is no shame in any answer. The flat stretch resets almost everyone at least once. Knowing where you are is the whole first move. We are building a short, free quiz that shows you where you stand and where to start. The link goes right here the moment it is live, so keep an eye out. For now, just decide one thing. The next time the balance barely moves and that quiet voice says, "What is the point?" recognize it. That is the flat stretch talking, right before the bend. And if watching why the start feels flat made the whole thing finally make sense, subscribe so the next one finds you. One clear money idea a week, always sourced, never hype. Quick recap. 2 made-up men on the same flat stretch. One crossed an illustrative line once. The other quit and reset 3 times. The income was never the difference. The flat stretch was. None of this was advice about what to do with your money. The characters were illustrations. The rate was a hypothetical, and the 8,000 was illustrative, not a target. So when your own progress looks flat, remember what flat actually means. It means you are early, you are doing it right, and the bend is further up the same line. Take care of your future self, and I will see you in the next one.